So today we're going to have a conversation about depression, and I'm going to do it maybe in a little bit of an unconventional way. It's an activity that I do with some of my clients. It's also an activity that I do when I teach my psychology students. And honestly, it's not always well received. And while I understand that, I think it still has a lot of value. And it helps us kind of process through depression in a little bit of a different way. Because one of the realities of mental health distress is often we do things in our lives that can help contribute to our feelings of distress. And so what we'll do with clients or with my students is I will ask them to help me put together a prescription for depression. So we set up the scenario where you're experiencing depression and you're really good at depression. And so your friend, let's say your friend Laura comes along, and Laura says she comes along and she says to me, she says, Steph, you are so good at your depression. Can you teach me your ways? And I say, girl, I've got some tips for you. If you want to be good and depressed, there's a whole host of recommendations I can give. And so up on the board here, there's just a host of things we can do if we want to add into the dis-ease of life, and if we want to exacerbate or make worse our depressive symptoms. Now, we'll talk kind of at the tail end what the antidote to this is. But up on the board here, if you want to add into your depression, do yourself a favor and stay inside. Stay inside all day, every day. A darkened room is best, and you're probably going to want to pull the curtains as much as possible, and you're going to want to isolate as much as possible, because that will help your depression grow. You're also going to, if you do engage in activities, there'll be activities where you can zone out, activities where it requires very little stimulus, very little brain effort, and you're going to want to just kind of veg out and just numb out to things. And that will help tick up your depressive symptomology. Up here, if you want to get on social media, this one is really, really powerful. Get on social media and compare yourself to people. And make sure you point out every way that you're failing and notice every way that other people are succeeding and pretend as though it's an apples to apples comparison and they're awesome at life and you suck at life and that's why things are so tough right now, right? So you really want to dive in and work through social comparison as much as possible. Up on the board here too, if you really want to be effective, and this is a great launching point for depression, get some dysregulated sleep. Now you can do this in a whole host of ways. You can do not enough sleep. You could do way too much sleep. You could just do broken sleep. You could sleep at odd times. You could take lots of naps. There's a lot of ways to mess with your sleep and mess with your circadian rhythm. And if you want depression to really take hold, you're going to want to mess with your sleep pretty much consistently as much as possible. Up on the board here too, poor nutrition. Now, what we put in our body matters, and so if we choose to put things in our body that exacerbate symptoms or make things worse, that's going to be to your benefit if you want depression to be kind of a staple part of your diet. So what that might look like is maybe I eat overly processed foods. Maybe I eat foods that are devoid of any nutrition. Maybe I really like carb-heavy things that just kind of sit with me and make me feel sluggish, or I'm snacking all the time. Maybe I just actually don't eat. That could be interesting. Let's see what happens with my body regulating if I just decide not to give it nutrition. Maybe I just eat all of the things. Maybe I'm constantly eating and then I feel poorly physically. I feel bad about myself. And so that will add into some of my feelings of distress overall. We could also disengage our hygiene rituals. So I can become the smelly person in my house and it's not a big deal. I can not engage in self-care much at all. I can, wear the same clothes repeatedly or not do my laundry. I could not wash my face. And then every time I walk by a mirror, I can just be really unimpressed with myself. And that will add in to kind of the despondency that happens if and when we start to disengage from life. Now, I can also overthink. Guys, this one is powerful because you can do it in so many ways. You can overthink about your flaws. You can overthink about your deficits. You can really ruminate on some mistakes that you've made, and you can just sit in it and think about it again and again and again, because that's going to help entrench some of those depressive symptoms that you're experiencing. Now, you can also disconnect from friends. We know often that connection really helps people. So to not help us, we would disconnect as much as possible. We would pull away, we would disengage from things we once enjoyed. Up here also, we would avoid our hobbies. Things that we once liked, we would definitely not spend time doing those anymore because we don't want to pull any pleasure out of life that would offset the flow we have with depression. The last one here, demand perfection. That's just a good idea in general. You don't want to be bad at anything. You want to excel at everything. If for some reason you're not good at it, you should overthink that. You should compare yourself to others. You should notice someone's better at something than you and keep kind of running through that scenario, because that will keep you entrenched in that depressive space. Now, hopefully the helpful part of this video is to say, what if you didn't do those things? What if you are struggling and you decided to do things differently? What if you decided to start spending time and intentional effort on a sleep schedule? And if you can't, if you don't know how to get started there, talk to your medical provider. Talk about best routines and practices to get yourself into a physiologically calm space so you can actually start to sleep in a more appropriate way. What if it would look like going to see a therapist and talking about things that are keeping you awake at night or things that disallow you from wanting to get out of bed in the morning? What if some of the interventions are as simple as changing some of your eating patterns, taking a shower, showing up for yourself, making sure that each day when you wake up, you do something that you look forward to, bring back some hobbies, reach out and let friends know that you're actually struggling. Those are things that can combat depression in such profound ways. Now, it's not a cure-all. There are many things going on in our lives that can be contributing to depression. My goal is to equip you with the understanding that your job is to enlist a support team, and your job is also to not add in additional issues to your own life, additional reasons to feel despondent, additional ways of bringing despair into your own life. And so if you're doing these things, you need to reconsider. You need to ask yourself, what benefit is this to me? And what benefit might it be if I do the opposite?